Hey everyone, I'm here with another video on constitutional law which deals with Article 19 on freedom of speech and expression. So let's start with the meaning and the scope of the freedom of speech and expression. Speech is God's gift to mankind. Through expression and speech, a human being conveys his thoughts, sentiments, and feelings to others. Freedom of speech and expression is thus a natural right which a human being acquires on birth. It is therefore a basic right. The freedom of speech and expression is regarded as the first condition of liberty. Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India guarantees to all its citizens the right to freedom of speech and expression. The law states that all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Under Article 19(2), reasonable restrictions can be imposed on the exercise of the right for certain purposes. Any limitation on the exercise to the right under Article 19(1)(a) not falling within the four corners of Article 19(2) cannot be valid. The freedom of speech under Article 19(1)(a) includes the right to express one's views and opinions at any issue through any medium, example by words of mouth, writing, printing, picture, film, movie, etc. It thus includes the freedom of communication and the right to propagate or publish opinion. But this right is subject to reasonable restrictions being imposed under Article 19(2). It is important to note that a restriction on the freedom of speech of any citizen may be placed as much by an action of the state as by its inaction. Thus, failure on the part of the state to guarantee it to all its citizens, irrespective of their circumstances and the class to which they belong, the fundamental rights to freedom of speech and expression would constitute a violation of Article 19(1)(a). Now, let's move on the importance of freedom of speech. In a democracy, freedom of speech and expression opens up channels of free discussion of issues. Freedom of speech plays a crucial role in the formation of public opinion on social, economic, and political matters. It embraces with its scope the freedom of propagation and interchange of ideas, dissemination of information which would help the formation of one's opinion and viewpoint and debates on matters of public concern. So, as long as the expression is confined to nationalism, patriotism and love for the motherland, the use of national flag by the way of expression of those sentiments would be a fundamental right. In Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, Justice Bhagwati has emphasized on the significance of freedom of speech and expression. In these words, democracy is based essentially on free debate and open discussion. If democracy means government of the people, by the people, it is obvious that every citizen must be entitled to participate in the democratic process, and in order to enable him to exercise his rights of making a choice, free and general discussion of public matters is absolutely essential. The Supreme Court in state of Uttar Pradesh versus Raj Narayan has held that Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution guarantees the freedom of speech and expression to all the citizens in addition to protecting the rights of citizens to know, the right to receive information regarding matters of public concern. Freedom of speech enjoys special position as far as India is concerned. The importance of freedom of expression and speech can easily be understood by the fact that preamble of Constitution itself ensures to all the citizens inter alia liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. It thus includes that expression of one's idea through any communication medium or visible representation. Moreover, it is important to note that liberty of one must not offend the liberty of others. So now let's move on. The grounds of restriction. It is necessary to maintain and preserve freedom of speech and expression in a democracy. So also it is necessary to place some restrictions on this freedom for the maintenance of social order, because no freedom can be absolute or completely unrestricted. Accordingly, under Article 19(2) of the Constitution of India, the state may make a law imposing reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right to freedom of speech and expression in the interest of public on the following grounds. Clause 2 of the Article 19 of the Indian Constitution contains the grounds on which restriction on the freedom of speech and expression can be imposed. Firstly, security of the state. Security of the state is of vital importance, and our government must have the power to impose a restriction on the activity affecting it. The term security of the state refers to a serious and aggravated forms of public order, for example, rebellion, waging war against the state, and not ordinary breaches of public order and public safety. Example, unlawful assembly, riot, and affray. Secondly, friendly relationships with foreign states. In the present global world, a country has to maintain a good and friendly relationship with other countries. Something which has the potential to affect such relationship should be checked by the government. Keeping these things in mind, this ground was added by the Constitution First Amendment Act 1951. The object behind the provision is to prohibit unrestrained malicious propaganda against a foreign friendly state, which may jeopardize the maintenance of the good relations between India and the state. Thirdly, the contempt of the court. In a democratic country, judiciary plays a very important role. In such situation, it becomes essential to respect such an institution and its order. Thus, restriction on the freedom of speech and expression can be imposed if it exceeds the reasonable and fair limit and amounts to contempt of court. Defamation. One's freedom, be it of any type, must not affect the reputation or status of another person. A person is known by his reputation more than his wealth or anything else. Constitution considers it as a ground to put restriction on freedom of speech, basically a statement which injures a man's reputation amounts to defamation. Defamation consists in exposing a man to hatred, ridicule, or contempt. Here's an example of the limitation on freedom of speech and expression. Recently, the Supreme Court on Friday held civil rights lawyer Prashant Bhushan guilty of contempt for tweet against the court and Chief Justice of India Sharad Arvind Bobde. Bhushan had posted two tweets, one on the Supreme Court on June 27th and the second one on Chief Justice Bobde on June 29. He was served notice by the court on July 22nd. The tweets had the effect of attempting to destabilize Indian democracy. The first tweet reproduced in the court said, "When historians in the future look back at the last 6 years to see how democracy has been destroyed in India, even without a formal emergency, they will particularly mark the role of the Supreme Court in this destruction, and more particularly the role of the last 4 Chief Justices." The second tweet said, "The Chief Justice of India rides a 50 lakh rupee motorcycle belonging to a BJP leader at Raj Bhavan, Nagpur, without wearing a mask or helmet, at the time when he keeps the Supreme Court on lockdown mode, denying citizens their fundamental rights to access justice." Another suo motu contempt petition is also pending before the same 3-judge benches against Bhushan for calling past Chief Justices corrupt in 2009 interview to Tehelka magazine. The case is now listed for hearing on August 17. The contempt of court 1961 punishes with imprisonment that may extend to 6 months or fine of rupees 2000 or both. So from here we learn that we must not speak anything which defames or harms any other person's personal right, especially we must not speak against the state or institutions. So here's the gist of the lecture. Expression through speech is one of the basic rights provided by the civil society. However, in modern world, right to freedom of speech and expression is not limited to express one's views through words, but it also includes circulating one's views in writing or through audiovisual instrumentals, through advertisements and through any other communication channel. It also comprises of right to information, freedom of press, etc. It is the right to express and self-realization. As far as India is concerned, this important right is mentioned in Article 19(1)(a), which falls in fundamental rights category. Indian courts have always placed a broad interpretation on the value and content of Article 19(1)(a), making a subjective only to the restrictions permissible under Article 19(2). Hope you all liked it. Thanks for watching.